welcome to Season 2 of GyrlSense. I'm Maria del Carmen, your host. Today's special guest is Zulynette Morales. When I first saw Zulynette perform on stage, I knew I had to share her talents on this platform. Zulynette is a Chicago-born, Hartford-raised powerhouse artist and poet. She has definitely made her name for herself in the poetry circuit. However, she holds a master's in social work. Zulynette has also a research background in participatory action research. She seamlessly delves into topics from poverty to feminism, self-esteem to Latinx identity, privilege to LGBTQ identity, and family issues to politics. Without further ado, Zulynette, what a pleasure to have you here as part of the GyrlSense family.
Thank you for having me on here. I'm excited to be here.
And what a way to start my season 2.
Thanks.
Zulynette, you are an absolute powerhouse. I just really want to jump right into your artistry, but let's take it back a little, as I always say. Tell us, how did Hartford gain such a jewel?
Hartford gained me by chance. My family just happened to move around a lot. Like you said, I was born in Chicago, and my father was a truck driver, so any place that he would go to that he thought was nice, that's where we went. And then as my family would move, because I am Puerto Rican and I have a huge family, you know, wherever grandma would go and ended up, she came to Hartford, and so our family sort of migrated this way as well. And I've been here since 2001 now. So I do think of Hartford as home.
Okay.
So, and since then I've just, what introduced me to poetry was, well, the way that I do it now is there was a open mic in Tapas in downtown. It actually got closed down and turned into a coffee house. And that's where I really started to learn to perform and learn to write about more of the topics that I speak on now. So that was maybe 6 years ago, maybe?
Just 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, we know about your artistry, which we will get into a little later, but you actually have a master's in social work. Is this like your day job?
I do. No. My day job is being an artist and a poet. That is what I do full time. That's what I do all day, every day.
Wonderful.
I don't necessarily have a boss. I am my own boss, which is great.
That
and it's
is
also
what I love to hear.
Extremely challenging, though. It's challenging, but it's also the most rewarding.
Absolutely.
I did get my master's in social work with a concentration in community organizing. I was very much raised on the idea that art and artistry is not going to pay the bills. It's not going to feed you. It's just a hobby, if even that.
Right.
Even though I come from a family that's very creative, but nobody ever saw that as work. And survival was always like the most important, it's of the utmost importance. So I was told probably since I was like in Pampers, like, you're going to college, you're going to make it out, you're going to do, you're going to be the one. And so I went to UConn, I got my bachelor's in psychology, and then I got the master's in social work, and then I became an artist.
Sounds good to me. Sounds just perfect to me. And speaking of your college career, tell me a little bit more about your research work.
So my first summer job ever when I was 15 years old in high school was at this place called the Institute for Community Research in Hartford. I had no idea what they were doing, what the heck we did that summer. It was pretty different. It wasn't like a retail job, and I had done retail like once and then never again. But it was participatory action research is what they trained us to do. And what that is, essentially, it's putting the people in the community, and in that case it was us, the teenagers that were hired, it's putting us in the place as the researchers. So we are the ones that decide what topic we want to do research on. We get trained in how to actually do the research ourselves, so how to create our own interviews, how to create our own surveys, how to create all of our materials, how to then collect the research, how to then analyze the research, and then how to present it. So we were seeing research from a different vantage point. It wasn't somebody coming into Hartford saying what it is that the Hartford community needed and then leaving. It was the people owning their own research about something that mattered to them. And I kept a relationship with them all the way up until I got my master's degree. So once I knew that I was getting my master's degree, they were like, listen, we want you, because I'd been working on and off with them since I was 15 years old.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, yeah, I'm all set once I graduate. This is it. And I got my big boy job. That's what I like to call it. I got my big boy job and all that, but it wasn't, I quickly, and this is something that I write about in my book, I quickly learned like this wasn't really what I was created to do, as much as I liked it. And it's so much harder to walk away from something that you like than something that you hate.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just said something. This wasn't something that I was created to do.
Yeah.
That in and of itself is such poetry, because isn't it such a presence, a self-presence, when you can identify that?
Yeah.
And you identify that early on.
I tried to. Well, I did identify it once I started working there. That was in 2013.
Okay.
But even then, it was such a struggle. And I didn't leave until last June, actually. June of last year. Okay. So I was there for a few years, and it was a huge battle within myself of what it is that I really want to do, what it is that I'm willing to sacrifice to follow what I know I should be doing versus what it is that is, a steady income, or a secure job, and leaping into something that doesn't feel as safe but feels way more fulfilling to me.
But I'm sure that all of that work and meeting all of those individuals was some sort of a foundation, to get you to where you are today.
Absolutely. I made great connections. I learned so much, and I have gained so many skills through working with ICR, the Institute, that I now apply in the work that I do. So, for example, I now facilitate poetry workshops and art workshops. And what I was doing at the Institute was I was facilitating essentially workshops and programming. I was program coordinators for some of the things we did with teens. And all of those skills that I got, scheduling and talking to teenagers and connecting with them and being able to present and all that, along with obviously the research stuff, all of the research background that I have, all of that is still very valuable and useful to me now.
Absolutely, because I know that you have many other genres up your sleeve yourself. So researching all of those different angles, you have to have learned it somewhere, right?
Absolutely.
So that was great experience for you. You have a wide arena of where you express yourself, speaking of that being one of them. So your arena is huge. You express yourself to different groups, and or you may educate different types of groups. What are some of those spaces, and how do you know which hat to wear when?
Ooh, that is a great question. So I like to know, first of all, where it is that I'm going, what the event is about, and what it is that they're trying to get out of me. And then sometimes I like to challenge those spaces. So if, for example, I could give you an example. I went to, and I don't want to get specific because, but I did go to this place that was down in New London. And majority of the students that I was talking to were white. And I am working on claiming and doing something with my own white privilege. I am a Latina, but because of the color of my skin, I have certain privileges that darker Latin folks don't. So what I like to do when I get in a room with other white-skinned folks is calling them out on their privilege, or having them challenge their own privilege, or think about their own privilege. So it's things like that where I am wearing the hat of educator / challenger almost, advocate. And that changes with who it is that I'm speaking to and what it is that I want to get across to them. Sometimes I just want to entertain. Sometimes I just had a long day and I just need to belt something out. And other times, there's kids in the room, and there's younger kids in the room, and I'll ask their parents, like, listen, I may curse. Is that okay with you? If it's not, I will censor. So it really varies, but I would say the common thread among all of my performances is I definitely want to leave an impact. I definitely want to make you feel something, whether you agree with me or not, on what it is that I'm saying. And I just want to be dope.
Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
So if someone were to request you to come to their facility, we will have your information uploaded on my site, or it's probably there already. But so what's the question? Like, they want you to come on to do poetry, they want you to come on, or do they ask you, what can you do for us? I have this group of kids, or I have these group of adults. Other than a typical stage presence, what is it that they ask from you when they do give you a call?
Usually what folks want me to do, all right, so first of all, they don't usually know what they want me to do. So let's start from there.
Well,
and it's not a bad thing, because then we can work on something together.
Right? And you can shape it up together. That's good. Okay.
And from there, they do tend to ask me what it is that I can do, to which I reply to them. I do workshops around identity. If it's poetry that they want me to work on, and this is dependent on what it is that the group needs. So I can do the poetry workshops, I can do art workshops, so that's more visually based. So if they want to do like collage, if they want to do painting, if they want to do like paint night style where they follow along with me, or a combination of both. And for the most part, when people request me, it's because they want to have their youth, and I'm mostly requested to work with youth. I work with a wide range of people, but I mostly am requested to work with youth. I just connect with them well. I can't help it. Yeah. And it's usually about really just getting them to open up and be honest. And there have been many times where we are sitting in a room and I'm looking at the teacher as one of the students is sharing something, and they're just like with their jaw like on the floor because somebody is talking about some really rough and raw things that otherwise they probably wouldn't have shared in front of their teacher. So.
What a gift you have.
Oh, thank you.
You have a wonderful gift.
Thank you.
Zulynette.
Yes.
So in my research on Zulynette Morales, I discovered that you're very deeply connected with this one word, this one noun, and that noun is transformation. I understood that. I read the underline, I read the in between, I read the before and after. I'm like, wait, she really digs this word, transformation, which is an awesome word. But how does it connect with you? What does it give you? What satisfaction does it give you?
I consider myself what's called an alchemist, which is someone that basically transforms one substance into another substance. So the way that I think about it is, how can I turn my life experiences into some sort of art? How can I turn it into some sort of inspiration for somebody else? How can I turn this into something that's powerful for me, which is then powerful for whoever's viewing it or connecting to it, seeing it? I love anything that's transformative, and that's not even like the big transformation. I mean, like, I love like cupcake shows and I like
testing
and
the
drag
shows.
Oh, I do. No. And like drag shows, and just like where anything is being transformed into something else.
Okay.
I love that process.
I get it. Okay.
So it's about it's about me doing within myself, but also teaching other people and showing other people, like, if you are going through something painful, if you are going through something traumatic, how can that be transformed into either something beautiful or something healing or something that helps you to do something?
Okay.
So all of that has to absolutely do with transformation. How can I turn this into something else? Because that's all my life is about. It's just changing and evolving.
And that is absolutely beautiful. And I can connect with you on an underline. This is why I have the show. Because I don't have your gifts, but I can bring you on the platform to share it with others. So I would love to think that I'm transforming others through you. How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
So earlier today I mentioned that you specialize in certain topics. And I'll read it again. You specialize in poverty to feminism, self-esteem to Latinx identity, privilege to LGBTQ identity, and family issues to politics. Could you briefly share your views on poverty to feminism?
Yeah, so I speak on poverty and feminism a lot in my poetry. I'd like to think that it's in all of my work, but it especially comes out in the poetry.
Okay.
And I speak on poverty because it's something that I experienced myself. I grew up poor. My mom was on welfare. We were on welfare. And so growing up and then having been on the other side of the spectrum and in a sense where I had my degrees and I had my job and I had the car and I had my apartment and all this and that. Excuse me. And in a sense, like, I made it.
Sure.
So, but then I started learning about, you know, prejudices and survivor's guilt and being a first generation person to make it in your family, to actually go to college. And then I was introduced to like a whole new chapter of feminism when I was at UConn. And it was an elective class. It was one of those, you know,
Right.
frilly classes that you didn't need to take. Excuse me. And I started seeing like the connections among all of these different issues that I had lived through, and that at the end of the day, when I was leaving UConn, which is a very privileged space, which is also a very white space, and when I was going back home to Hartford, I was still seeing, I was still experiencing, and and that was actually the starting point where I started to think critically and talk about these social issues from that lens, about feeling like I would be in class and being observed and being under a microscope because there were all of these students that had these middle class backgrounds that would never know what that life was actually about, that they were reading about in some book and writing papers about. So then I started to, like, again, connect those things and consider myself a feminist and call myself a feminist proudly. And then even challenge that idea of what a feminist is, because some people talk about, you know, like white feminism, which is not intersectional. It's just benefiting white women, and talking about how important it is to bring in all women when you're talking about feminism, talking about intersectionality, talking about trans women, talking about, you know, black and brown women and the importance of raising them up. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And is there any other combo topic you want to share with the list that I just recited?
Self-esteem is really big. Also, I actually that would be one of the pieces I'd want to share today is self-esteem. Just because this takes a lot of self-esteem itself, just being your own boss and deciding that you want to do what it is that you want to do, it takes a certain level of self-esteem.
Of course.
And one of the things that I was always hearing growing up, and it wasn't always necessarily directed at me, but, you know, it was, if you come from here, you're only going to get so far. If you're a woman, you're only going to get so far. If you're a woman of color, you're only going to get so far. Your name is really hard to say, you're only going to get so far. So it was about, all of these things are about different identities, and having high self-esteem in those identities, having confidence in those identities and who it is that you really are, regardless of these identities or because of these identities, or a combination of the two, like transforming all of these things to who you actually want to be.
Nice.
And not letting them chop you apart.
When did you conceptualize the idea of, I am who I am? Take me as I am. What you see is what you get. When did that hit you, or was it always there?
I would say it was always bubbling. It wasn't always there.
Okay.
Even when I would front and act like it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't always there. And I would say that really started. It started to get really big probably last year around the time that I left the job, because I finally decided that I was going to do something this huge for myself and only for myself.
Right.
The going to school and getting my degrees and getting the job and all that, that was for me, but that was also very much for other people. It was for my mother. It was for my family, to be the role model, all those things. So doing this and taking this huge leap, that definitely, it had me feeling myself, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say that's where it was like, okay, now I feel untouchable. Like there are days where,
Right.
you know,
We
things
all have
get
our
hard.
days.
Yeah, exactly.
We all have our days.
I put in the book somewhere that Oprah has her days, her
Yeah.
off days too.
Yeah,
So just
exactly.
relax.
There you go.
So it was like, but like at the core, I like to say that I'm core happy.
Nice.
Which means like everything, you know, even when things are getting rough, even when things are stressful or hard or tricky, at the core, like I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I feel pretty, I feel like a powerhouse.
And that's what exudes. So I feel it. And you are a busy artist, and you touched upon it, but you have a book release next month.
Woo! Yes, I do.
And on your way here, you mentioned
The books got here.
the books are in.
The books are in. I'm
oh
so
my
excited.
gosh.
I'm so freaking excited.
Oh, I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
So when can we see book signing, and what's the name of the book?
So the book is called Building a Powerhouse, and it will be, I'm going to have an event at the 224, which is at 224 Farmington Avenue. It's going to be in Hartford on September 16th. It's a Saturday. It'll be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's free to enter. I'll be selling the books there, and you can get me to sign it, put little happy faces in it, whatever you like.
Exciting.
I'll be reading some of the pieces, answering questions, and all that good stuff.
Exciting. So, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
But we're not done yet. We're not quite done yet. Actually, Zulynette had performed for us much earlier, and we're going to see a clip of that.
My 7-year-old niece told me she feels ugly without makeup on. Why are you so defensive, Zulynette? Are you a lesbian? Is that why you're so overly protective of your female friends? Ready to jump down any man's throat all just because he's being disrespectful? Come on, didn't you know? That's just the way it is. Things will never be the same. Like back when female deities were something that relate to me, something I could teach my niece. Matriarchy, worship little girl, is something that you are worthy of. But now, my 7-year-old niece told me she feels ugly without makeup on. Mothers walking down the street, teenage girls walking down the street. Damn, baby, you sexy. Beep, beep. Always a bridesmaid, but never a bride. Scars, flaws, kinky hair, run and hide. Hide inside and dye your roots so that your roots die. Too black, too white, too fat, too light. Always wrong, never right, and never tell your story out loud. Just write it with a razor and let your wrists cry. My 7-year-old niece told me she feels ugly without makeup on. Even famous rappers and singers got grown women trying to be Barbie. These are lyrics sung by my little puffy-haired niece. These are lyrics memorized by my half-black, half-Puerto Rican niece. These are lyrics internalized by my never-gonna-be an upper-class, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, tan, anorexic Barbie niece. Peace by delusional peace. She is forced into an illusion, further into the confusion, like there's something that she needs to be proven, shouldering the weight of, this is a man's world. And look at what came from that. My 7-year-old niece told me she feels ugly without makeup on. Thank you.
That was fantastic. I'm Maria del Carmen, your host. This grassroots show is taking root. Visit GyrlSense.com for information about our guest. Join us again for more GyrlSense.